For 3 movies now, I've been hammering the same point. The best giant monsters are just a big version of something real you can already name. The mimics in Edge of Tomorrow are the exact opposite. You can't name one thing they're built from. By everything we've said on this channel, that should not work. Still, it's some of the best design of the last decade, and not just because they're aliens instead of monsters. But why is that? Well, as usual, we've got to look at what these things were actually asked to do, which sounds vague, but stay with me for a moment. Any monster in a film has to look dangerous in some way, but the mimics had a whole second thing loaded on top. They had to look like something you can't just really beat, you know? Maybe it's exactly like a video game boss fight. You fight, you die, and learn something, and do the entire fight over again with this additional piece of information, which, you know, is the actual movie. Cage lives the same battle on repeat because these things are so far past killable, the premise is built around it. I'll come back to that point later. This is a slight overstatement though, because the mimics are killable once he figures them out. So the design's gotta sit in this really thin little sweet spot. Scary enough that resetting time feels like a reasonable setback, but then also beatable enough that when Cage finally works them out, you go along with it and don't feel cheated. Okay, time for a confession, because I was never the sci-fi sucker I am now back when this movie came out. First time I saw Edge of Tomorrow with that whole opening beach fight, I watched it on a shitty 32-inch Samsung Smart TV that was hanging above my bed. And you know what I thought when I saw it for the first time? These things move so fast and so wrong that my brain just went, look at that cheap CGI. Looked all pixelated and smeary to me. Yeah, really. Big budget movie, and the monsters look glitchy is all I could think. I just wanted some clear looks at the thing. That's what my teenage brain was fixated on. And I was so wrong. That glitchy, busted look was doing the precise thing in the opening it was built to, and every bit of it was on purpose. But why? Well, think about how most monster movies play the reveal. They build to it. Something shifts in the dark, the hero rounds a corner, and there it is. Full body, hold the shot, let everybody get a nice, clean look at it. You know the drill. Edge of Tomorrow did the opposite. Cage gets dumped onto a beach in an exosuit he has no clue how to work, couldn't even find the safety, and the whole place is already on fire. Sand everywhere, explosions, soldiers getting ripped apart around him before he's managed 10 steps. And the mimics are in this, all over that beach. You just can't make one out. They come up out of the ground, tearing through the smoke, kill somebody, and they're gone before your eyes can even catch up. You get a flicker of something, and it's already somewhere else. Which is the whole point, you know? You're drowning in the same battle Cage is, with no freaking clue what's happening, what's killing him, how his suit works, and why anything is really happening at all. There's no calm, wide shot that lets you go, okay, so that's what the mimics look like. Maybe just that alpha shot at the start, which, for the record, makes for another interesting point later. Oh, but wait, there's another scene I want to talk about first. Give me a minute. From your first second with these things, you're already just a little confused, right where the movie wants you sitting. Because that whole messy opening is giving you one rule. You don't get to understand a mimic by looking at it. Nobody does. You get close, it kills you, and maybe you come away with one new scrap of info. Sound familiar? Yeah. Get close, die, learn one thing, go again. Yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. It's the movie's plot, Groundhog Day logic, I keep repeating myself here. Oh, by the way, I will keep doing it. That lack of information, that was a problem for little old teenage me. But back to the scene I wanted to mention. When you actually freeze a mimic and really look, there's not much to hold on to, at least during the movie. I'm gonna pause it here to show you. This is what teenage me had seen. I couldn't make shit out of this scene. The hell are we looking at? It's a ball of black, glassy tentacles, all wrapping and folding over each other? Obsidian looking kinda, with no fixed shape to any of it. One second it's bunched up tight, the next it's stretched out and spun sideways. The way it moves in that clip, it's just so freaking weird. Like, is it attacking right now? Like that? I don't know. If you look at the concept art or more high quality stills, then alright, there's at least somewhat more of an anatomy to work out, if that's even the word to use. I'll save this for later and get back to it. On screen, all you get is that blurry blob I've talked about before. Maybe it was just my shitty TV back then, but I'm sticking to it that you don't get to see the mimic in a very clear shot. After doing a little digging, I've come to find that that was completely on purpose, which I've come to love now, 12 years later. And fun fact, they actually pushed that idea way too far when they started with it. The early version was pure chaos apparently, just the tentacles, no center to any of it. Everything just kind of free-floating and tangling into everything else, with nothing holding it together. The crew at Sony Imageworks had a name for what they ended up looking at: a bowl of spaghetti. Their words, not mine. A creature so shapeless it turned into stuff. moving noise on the screen. I wish I could have shown it or seen it myself, but I could only find it mentioned in interviews, no imagery anywhere. But I'm glad they didn't go through with that route. You might assume more alien looking is always better, but nope. Push it far enough and your eye just gives up, because there's nothing left to be scared of. Nothing your brain will accept as living anyway. So they walked it back, the same way I'm walking it back to that high quality concept image from before. They gave the tangle a solid center for all of those tentacles to hang off of, something your eye can lock onto, while the rest of it goes mad around it. And they buried the faintest hint of a face in there, a suggestion of eyes, a mouth, maybe some teeth. It's barely there, but just enough that the old animal part of your brain goes, oh yeah, that's alive, and it wants me dead. That's the tightrope they're balancing on. Too normal, and it's just another monster movie. Too abstract, and it's nothing we can imagine. And they had to find that one narrow spot in between where it still reads as something alive, but you can't quite work out what it is. And weirdly enough, the shape was basically the easy part. The thing that really scrambles your head, it's the exact same thing that made teenage me sitting there calling it broken CGI, is what a mimic does the second it starts moving. Let's give it a watch. Yeah, Mimic doesn't move like anything you've seen. It doesn't move like an animal, nor a human, or any monster you've sat through before. It kinda just pours, spins, the whole tangle reshaping itself a dozen times a second while it comes at you. It doesn't even turn to face you, it just reorganizes. The front becoming the back, new limbs shoving out where they're wanted. It feels too fast for something that size, changing shape too quick for your eye to keep up. And that I gotta give teenage me some credit for, to be honest, because, well, looking at low quality footage, it still kind of looks like subpar CGI in my head, I'm sorry. Things that move like this are usually glitches, frames dropping, a render breaking, a video buffering on you. Nothing alive moves like a mimic, so the very first time you see it, some part of your brain just kind of goes, okay. Looks a little bit goofy. I know you might not agree with me, because, I mean, that's the whole point, but please, tell me you can understand at least a little bit where I'm coming from, or completely hate on me in the comments if that's what you're into. The film never smooths the motion out to make it comfortable. It just keeps that impossible feeling. Why? Well, I think that it does something particular for both the plot and the enemy humanity is facing in this premise. A normal enemy, even a scary one, you can read. You can watch it wind up, you know roughly where the hit's coming from, but a mimic gives you nothing. No pattern to lock onto or a wind up to detect. It comes at you from any direction at any moment, rebuilding itself into any direction afterwards, moving completely weightless. So how do you beat something you can't read? Well, you don't actually beat it, I guess. You just find a new way each loop around yet another one of them. Sorry for repeating it so much. I will keep doing it, but you gotta understand, it really matters a lot for these mimics in particular, which will all make sense by the end, I promise, I promise. We need to cover the animation aspect of the mimics first, before moving to the one element they gave the humans that kind of counters it, outside of the time loop. Now, the movement of mimics, sounds like a 1920s novel, turned out to be an absolute nightmare for the poor animators who had to build it. Almost every digital creature in every film you've ever watched is built on something called a rig, an invisible frame of bones the animators grab to move the thing around. Same way your own skeleton lets you move. And that rig only works if the creature keeps a constant shape, which of course is not the mimic at all. Every time it grows a new tentacle or folds in on itself, a normal rig would just break. So Sony Imageworks took a very different approach and built their own tool from scratch to handle it. It's even got a name, SP Tentacle. And the SFX director Daniel Kramer laid out roughly how it worked. Instead of animating 1,000 tentacles by hand, the animators would define one center spleen. Spleen? Spline. Basically, a core line running through the creature, and the tool grew out all the other tentacles automatically, wrapping and twisting around that core. It sorted the collisions so the tentacles didn't pass through each other, and it let them thicken or thin or lengthen any of them. It even added gravity so the loose ones drooped right, which also made them feel a little bit less weightless. I'm sorry, Sony VFX team. I mean, the part I considered bad CGI is probably some of the hardest, most custom-built animation at that point in time. Whoops. Now, what was that one counter they gave to humanity in this, outside of the time loop? Well, it's the soldiers. Okay, more specifically, the suits. The humans in this film got designed as the total flip side of a mimic. Those suits, or exojackets, or whatever you want to call them, are heavy, ugly, mechanical lumps of metal. And they're real. The crew actually built them. Something like 120 of these things, hand cast out of aluminum. And the frame alone weighed up to 100 pounds. Bolt the guns on, and you're past 130. Tom Cruise needed 4 people and half an hour just to get strapped into one early on. Now hold that up against a mimic. The human tech is, primitive? Yeah, that's probably the right word for it. You can see every hinge and joint straining to do its job, whereas the mimic is fluid and impossible to follow. Complete opposites. And each one makes the other better. The heavy, believable suits sell the ground the mimics are floating over. And the other way around, those impossible mimics make the clunky suits feel like the only desperate thing standing between us and something we can't even understand. If everyone in this movie had sleek, weightless armor too, the mimics wouldn't feel that alien by comparison. Maybe that's just another hot take of mine. Because where do we see that before? In Pacific Rim. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm not bringing it up every single video. But what I am going to do is bring up another design choice that is similar to Pacific Rim. It's that mimics come in a hierarchy. 3 tiers of them. You remember the kaiju category system? 1 to 5, each tier worse than the last? Edge of Tomorrow's got its own version of that, except the tiers here are about control. At the bottom, you've got the drones. That's the huge majority of what's on that beach. The ones swarming and killing. And that's all they do. They're guided weapons, basically. Claws with no real brain pointed at us. Then, rarely, you get an alpha. Alphas are a big step up. Maybe 1 in every few thousand drones. And they're special because when you kill an alpha, it fires off a kind of distress signal. And something answers that signal by resetting the whole day. Rewinding time so that morning, the aliens get to run the entire battle over again, keeping everything they just learned. Cage gets into that time loop because he gets covered in alpha blood when he kills one, right? Yeah, I think that's how that worked. The time loop is the weapon. It's how these things have been winning the war the whole time. Every time humanity makes real progress and kills an alpha, the day resets, and the mimics come back knowing what we're about to do. That's the mimic part of mimicking. Yeah, it's kind of a wordplay thing. The thing pulling all the strings is the Omega, a single hidden alien thingy that whole species is really just an extension of. The drones and the alphas are its hands. The Omega is the brain that can rewrite reality the second it starts to lose. Now, rebuild the whole design in your head with that sitting under it. A creature, singular, you can't see clearly, can't predict, can't outmuscle, and that comes back knowing your every move the instant you get close to winning. Every single thing that makes a mimic feel unbeatable on the surface is the exact same thing the Omega is doing to time underneath. That's the design Edge of Tomorrow got right. The monster is the plot. And that's also why you'll never see a mimic in another movie, which ties back all the way to the start of this video. People rip off good monster designs constantly. It's fine, it's how the genre works. Everyone's always borrowing from everyone. Frankly, YouTube is its own kind of monster like that. I do it, others do it too. But you cannot steal a mimic. Go ahead, try. Drop one into any other sci-fi film, and it just falls apart. Without the time loop, the Omega, the story that's specifically about learning an enemy by dying to it over and over, and without all that, the mimic's just a fast tentacle blob. Every great thing about this design only pays off because of the exact movie it's sitting in. The unreadable look only lands because you're meant to fail to read it, and the impossible movement only lands because someone has to learn it the hard way. So yeah, best alien design of the last decade. It's been praised by other creators as well. If you want a deep dive on the topic, make sure to check out any of these two that I'm putting up right now. They cover different and other interesting points and are definitely worth checking out. If you want to see another design side that isn't about a giant monster or a robot, make sure to check out the spaceship design from Interstellar, who took a whole other approach to realistic design these fictional movies never seem to take. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.